בוקר טוב, השגריר פרידמן, ראש עיריית ירושלים, משה ליאון, מכובדיי. President Trump, Donald, exactly 3 years ago, you became the first world leader to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Here is the proclamation you made that day. It will now be prominently displayed on the wall of Israel's cabinet room here in Jerusalem. It will be displayed alongside President Harry S. Truman's 1948 proclamation recognizing the newly established state of Israel. These two historic proclamations will never be forgotten. They'll never be forgotten by the Jewish people and by the Jewish state. They will be cherished for generations. But, Mr. President, that was only one of the many historic decisions you have made during your presidency. You recognize Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. You recognize Israel's legitimate rights in Judea and Samaria. You proposed a realistic peace plan that acknowledges those rights and maintains Israel's ability to defend itself. You forged the historic Abraham Accords, which ushered in a new period of peace that is dramatically changing the face of the Middle East before our very eyes. And rather than appease those who chant death to America and death to Israel in Tehran, you withdrew from the dangerous nuclear Iran deal, placed crippling sanctions on Iran, and took out the world's most dangerous terrorist, Qasem Soleimani. That is why, Mr. President, as we mark today 3 years since your historic proclamation, we in Israel are deeply grateful for all you've done for Jerusalem, for Israel, for bringing peace, and for bringing the U.S.-Israel alliance to unprecedented heights. This week, Jews across the world will celebrate Hanukkah. We remember how, over 2,000 years ago, the brave Maccabees confronted a mighty empire that oppressed our people and sought to eradicate our faith. Against all odds, the Maccabees won a miraculous victory, reestablished an independent state, and rededicated our temple in Jerusalem. This year, we'll once again light the Hanukkah candles in the united Jerusalem right next to the Western Wall. Thanks to you, Mr. President, we, the descendants of the Maccabees, can celebrate that alliance between the reborn Jewish state and the most powerful country on earth is stronger than ever. And we celebrate the fact that the American flag flies high atop the new American embassy that you, President Trump, moved to our glorious eternal capital, Jerusalem. For all this and more, thank you, President Trump. God bless Israel, and God bless America. David, will you join me, please, Ambassador Friedman, to put this proclamation where it belongs? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. As you noted, it was 3 years ago today that President Trump courageously recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. In so doing, he acknowledged the 3,000-year-old history of Jerusalem and its centrality to the Jewish people. And he actualized the will of the American people, whose leaders passed the Jerusalem Embassy Act in 1995 by overwhelming bipartisan majorities. In recognizing Jerusalem, President Trump also did something else. He sent a clear message to the world that the United States stands unflinchingly with its allies and that the United States bases its foreign policy on the truth, not on wishful thinking or upon fantasy. That message has since reverberated throughout this region and other regions, and it has made the world a safer place. And that policy undoubtedly has led to a once-in-a-generation series of peace agreements, the Abraham Accords, between Israel and the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and the Sudan. As you point out, Mr. Prime Minister, the President deserves enormous credit for this bold and decisive action. And on behalf of President Trump and the United States of America, I thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for your kind words and for making this proclamation part of the glorious history of the United States and Israel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you.